Hello, I am your talk host, Dawn Westmoreland, coming from Asheville, North Carolina, the beautiful Blue Ridge Mountains, coming from WPVM FM LP 103.7, Radio Asheville. My show is all about healing. It's about overcoming trauma. It's about confidence and resiliency and so much more. Every Sunday at 10 a.m. Eastern Standard Time Zone, you can hear us talking about resiliency and these different topics. Now, today I have Rasie Bama. How do you say your name? Bam.
Rasie
I
B
should
is
ask this
good.
before.
Rasie B is
And
good,
she,
I promise. Yeah. We always like deviate from why we're here, so let's go with B.
we got to have laughter. If we didn't make mistakes or,
Right?
once in a while, we wouldn't be human. You know what? I was in Air Force 20 years, and we started out, Razzie, with service before self. It didn't matter how tired you were. It didn't matter that you were about to pass out,
Mm.
that you had health issues, you had mental health issues. You pursued on. But we were talking before the interview about ease and grace. And what does that mean to you?
Mm. And for me, when I say ease, it's planning ahead and going through like, okay, what are the top priorities, right? Because some things are just not going to get done, and that's just the reality. They stay at the bottom of the list, or
Mhm.
until we delegate or ask for help, like, hey, I need help with doing this, like either in leadership, it could be like with our teams, or for authors, it could be tapping into their circle, their community, or at home, asking our friends and family to support us so that we can move with that ease. And I think for me personally, when I have things planned ahead, I'm
Mhm.
able to ease in. It might not go as planned, but I have a plan that keeps me calm, right? And then also with the grace part, it's giving myself lots of grace, like, and knowing that, reminding myself that perfection does not exist, but I can do things excellently. And I don't know if excellently is a word, now it is.
You can make
And
it work.
yeah, yeah.
I do it all the time.
Yeah, and just, focusing on, and when I say excellence, it's doing the best that I can in that moment, in that day, in that week, because our best is different each day, right? And each month, each year, etc. I could be at a 2 out of 10 in one day, and that could be my best because I have all these different things going on that I'm juggling, right? And it's important to give ourselves grace and remind ourselves, like, hey, I love you, I love me, and we're doing the best that we can, and this is okay. And the thing about, moving with ease and also giving ourselves grace, we're able to extend this to other people in our lives, right? The people that we're interacting with, we're communicating with, who we're supporting, we're being of service to, as you mentioned earlier. I think it's absolutely important. That's a season that I'm in right now. And what I'm finding is like I'm not taking things personal.
Mhm.
Like when people make specific comments or project what they're feeling within into my own space. And it's really important to kind of take it back in, like, okay, how am I going to move with ease and give myself lots of grace today so that I can extend that to other people who I'm interacting with from my family, friends, and colleagues and clients.
Yeah. So it has a rippling effect.
Hmm.
Yeah. Many years ago, I've been retired 20 years from the Air Force, but I was sharing this story last week with somebody who's just working their tail off at work. They're younger than me, and they're not taking lunches. They're not taking good care of themselves. And I remember this guy who later made chief, and he says, Dawn, I notice you never ever go to lunch. You're always in your office. Razzie, I was like, I didn't know any different. I didn't have a whole lot of mentors, and I thought I had to keep eating and working. And
Yeah.
he says, you know what you're teaching your employees or airmen,
Hmm.
'cause I'm in the Air Force. He said, you're teaching them, hey, guess what? When you get to my position, this is how it is for you too. He goes, do you think that's a really good thing? And I said, no, it's not. And that taught me that day forward. He said, I don't care if you sit in your car, you get out of
Hmm.
your office. For
Yeah. Well, it used to be a badge of honor, right? Like when we do these things to extreme and push on our body, mind, and soul, right? It's a norm to just grind, grind, grind until you're out, and then you get back up and then you do it all over again and then you're out. It's the old way of doing things, the old way of serving and leading. I don't think it's sustainable.
Yeah, I don't either. And
Mhm.
I won't out the person because I work real close
Yeah.
with them. But I know somebody that's like grind hard, grind every day, grind, grind.
Yeah.
I'm like,
Yeah.
you're a little bit younger, than me, but not much younger. And I'm thinking, how long will that last? Now you have a
Yeah.
very interesting story of where you've burned out.
Hmm.
What happens when life isn't full of ease and grace?
Yeah, and again, it's so important. It's because I've experienced the other side, right? So I'm able to flip that page and, write this like new chapter for myself
Mhm.
and do the flip of it. Because I know, okay, this is what and I'll share my story in a sec here. This is what burnout feels like, and this is what the result is like when I reach that stage. And then on the other side, when I move with ease and grace, this is what that looks like on the result for the results, right? So knowing the two, it's important to know the two. I think if you haven't experienced burnout, you don't know like the severity of it, right? And if you don't move with grace and ease, you don't know like what's the benefits of that. And I think it's important, like and I just want to, put some light on that. Like if you're in a space where listening in and you are burnout, you've experienced burnout, or you're nearing that part, like it's when you've experienced it, okay, I don't want to do this again, right? Don't go through the lesson twice, three times, and four times, or whatever. So in 2019, I was working on my coffee shop business. So that was my first business idea that didn't come through, and lots of learnings from it. And I grew a lot as a result of that because I worked on it for 6 years, like financially, emotionally, mentally, physically, and it didn't come through, and I learned a lot. But in 2019, I was working on that and then working full time at the airport as an operations manager, and I'm juggling both. And I wasn't measuring like, oh, this is how many hours I'm going to spend on my business. This is how many hours I'm working. I was just going, like we were talking about the grind, just going. And I'm like, I need to open up my coffee shop. I need to quit my job.
Mhm.
And when I look at it from like then and now, from now, like right now, and looking back, it was the wrong energy I was putting into it, right? It's like that rush, that grind. We got to get there now, like not
Mhm.
trusting the process, that sometimes it takes time and it takes pace to get to things. And so I walked into the airport, and I'm supporting one of the stores. There's about six Starbucks locations that I'm an operations manager. So when I'm on duty, I support all six. Operationally checking in on the staff, equipment, the systems and processes. So I walked in, and then there was like a couple people who called in sick for two called in sick, one running late to this one store, and they're very busy at that time in the morning.
Mhm.
And so I jumped in, I said hi to them, uplifting the energy and chatting it up and chatting with customers. All of a sudden, a customer asked me for water. That's the last thing I remember. And then everything went dark because I remember waking up and I was on the floor. My chest is like in pain. I'm dripped in sweat and I'm just confused. Like, where am I? What just happened? I completely blacked out. And then I'm getting put on a stretcher to go to the hospital in an ambulance. And literally, I still remember this moment on my way to the hospital, looking up at the sky. And I'm like, God, I hear you. This is not going to happen again. I'm listening. I'm not going to get to this point again. I'm going to do different from here. And it was a wake up call for me. And I share this story over and over with the intention to inspire people to prioritize self care and rest because it's so important, and moving with lots of ease and grace, doing the things that we need to do, especially starting with that self leadership aspect, to be able to make that space for self-care, because it's a process. It doesn't happen overnight. But I am really grateful I'm here, and I'm grateful that my body for it and brought me back, and it was in time, because there's so much that I want to do and a lot of things that I'm doing on purpose.
Yeah. Do you think we're conditioned to be going, 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 busy, busy, busy?
I don't think
When did it
so.
stop?
No, it's what we see, right? Like what we've been inspired by, our mentors. I can speak for myself with that aspect. I worked with a lot of leaders and mentors who were just on the go, right? And then also, you could be having your lunch break. Like I had that in the past. I could be on my lunch and then I'm getting a phone call, even though it says on my calendar that I'm having lunch, right? And these were moments where I had to speak up for myself and say, hey, I'm having lunch and I'll be back in 20 minutes and we can continue this conversation. And what that did, though, for me as a leader, it inspired my team to start prioritizing lunch. So I'll actually share with you another quick story.
Great.
I like in 20, so after 2019, yeah, after I had that wake up call, I started doing power naps at work. So, because we have a certain amount of like break time, right? So I break it down into 15 minutes. So I eat, have my lunch 15 minutes, and I do a power walk 15 minutes, and I do a power nap, and I usually go for another 15-minute walk, or just disconnect and like connect with other people in the office and stuff. And when I started doing this, and especially the nap part, some of my staff started taking power naps. Like actually, like, hey, Rassi, I'm taking a nap at this time. If I don't respond, this is what's happening. And that just like brought me so much joy. And it also amplified how our actions and our words as leaders, it influences and inspires the people who are watching us. Sometimes we don't even know they're watching every move that we're taking, right?
Yeah, as they say, sometimes we don't know, who's watching us. We're always on parade. Yeah.
Hmm. Hmm.
Self-care. Let's talk about self-care because anybody who's listening in, they may have their idea of self-care, but what is
Hmm.
self-care to you? You brought up some ideas that are great, but
Yeah, yeah.
let's get into self-care. How can people practice self-care?
Yeah, it's the first thing that I personally do is having goals, right? Because you having goals, having like that, it could be a personal vision. It doesn't have to be just work, right? And where are you heading, right? So an example for me is I'm working on purpose to support leaders and authors. That's like that end goal. Like I have a number of leaders I want to support each year, a number of authors I want to support each year. And when I do that work, when I work backwards from that future that I see that I see happening, there are different things that I need to do, right? So the next step is communicating. So there are people in my life that I need to communicate with, like, hey, this is my goal, and these are the different things that I want to accomplish. And then also asking for help. So I'll give an example right now with balancing, my self, like entrepreneurship and motherhood, right? I got to count on my husband quite a bit to support. So it requires me to communicate what my goals are and what different times that I need his support so that I'm able to do an interview, do a radio interview like this right now, and work with my clients, etc., all and do my speaking and all that stuff, right? And I communication is a huge piece. Either it's like I'm communicating to myself, making that time, sitting down, writing down, okay, these are top priorities, these are the time that I'm going to rest. And what's really powerful as well is putting it in the calendar. An example would be, okay, I'm gonna nap at 12 o'clock, right? Putting that in your calendar, make it happen.
Mhm.
And the other part as well is creating the environment as you get to 12 o'clock. Because sometimes we got to slow down that stimulation, right?
Yes,
Maybe
of
it's like
course.
maybe it's putting on meditation music. Maybe we need to go for a walk before we take that nap, or maybe we need to just turn off our phone and then take that nap. there's different things that, that works for people differently. For me, it's like playing that meditation music in the background. It does it for me. I could nap for 5 minutes, get up, and I'm ready to go. And another
I don't know
example
how
to
you do it.
right.
What about
It's
people that take maybe 20, 30 minutes just to fall asleep? How do they
right.
do these 5-minute power naps?
Yeah, it's wild. And a big part as well, I should share that is writing things down. So I am a big fan like with that is not trying to keep all things in my head. Like inputting, I need to do something, I get that into my calendar. And
Right.
then I can move that around in my calendar, right? Like when I'm prioritizing things, maybe it's gonna get done 3 weeks later, but it's somewhere and I don't have to worry about it. And then the other part is like going for walks. Like I know that walks energizes me. It boosts my productivity levels. It gets me, I'm very engaged when I go for walks. So I make sure that's done. Or either it's working out, either it's doing yoga or doing weights. Whatever that works for us that brings us joy, that elevates our energy. Those I think though it really amplifies like that self-care aspect. And sometimes as well, it's that, okay, I did not get enough sleep last night. I need to push my meetings so that I can get a power nap in. Either it's like an hour or 2 hours, and then get on with the day and do it with grace and not with guilt or resentment.
I love it. You talked earlier, Razie, about trust the process.
Mm-hmm.
I, I'm a baby boomer, the last year of the baby boomers, although I don't feel like it. And I
Yeah.
always, all our life, we are told hard work, hard work, hard work. That'll get you to, wherever you're trying to go, your
Hmm.
goals. But you're also talking about trust the process. And what does that mean to you?
Oh, I love telling stories. So I'm gonna share with you a story. And if anyone out there is experiencing grief right now, my heart goes out to you and really do it with lots of love and compassion for self. And it has no timing. So in 2018, my first husband passed away. And it was probably about 3 months after his passing. I still remember being on my bathroom floor and I was just like crying nonstop and I could not stop crying.
Mm,
And I called one of my brothers who was really there with me every step of the way, especially that first year. It was like the hardest. Maybe not the hardest, but it was hard in that time in its intensity, like where I was at in my healing. And I remember saying to him, I am so tired. I am tired. I am tired. And I still remember repeating that over and over. And I
mm,
remember him saying this to me, trust the process. Everything shifted for me when he said that. And he didn't even have to explain it.
mhm,
And what I took from it is things happen the way they're meant to. We don't have control over certain things. There's certain things we can control, especially that self aspect of what I do next. And I needed to move along with how my grief was happening for me and how I uniquely experience it. And that's why I wrote the book Heal on Your Terms and sharing like how I move through it on my own terms because it's very different for everybody else. And
mm,
I wanted to get to that destination right away. I wanted to be healed. I wanted my heart not to hurt anymore. And when he said to me, trust the process, I needed to know that grief doesn't heal, like it doesn't go away overnight, right? It doesn't go away over 7 years. It still comes up in different forms, and there's a new trigger every time, just reminding you of that love that you are not able to express for that person.
mm. That's a lot to go through, certainly.
Mhm.
Let's talk about your books. Now, you've got
Mhm.
some books. How many books do you have out there, and what are they about, and where do people find them?
Yeah, so I have three best-selling books out there, and I actually finished writing my fourth book, the first draft.
Mm,
I'm not gonna say a whole lot about that. It's gonna leave it like that. My
Keep
first
us
book,
in suspense.
I know, right? I know. It's like, stay tuned, stay tuned. And so Lead in Your Truth. My first book is about authentic leadership. So I share 8 steps to help any leader lead more authentically. And there's different skills that you need to build on to be able to reach that space, like that space of showing up as who you are unapologetically and leading from that. Because when we lead from that space, there's so much that's possible, right? Because now we're in that space of I am not going to do it like that person just because I want my team to like me or I want to please this person. But you're like,
Mhm.
okay, this is who I am and this is how I'm going to show up. And sometimes it requires us to leave that employer that we're working with because we're not aligned with our values. Or sometimes it requires us to work with different teams or do some self-development so that you can do better as a leader. Because you don't like once you get to know yourself and then you're able to show up with that unapologetically. And my second book, Heal on Your Terms, I was sharing earlier, it's to help anyone who's grieving. And when I say grief, it could be in so many different forms. It could be from losing a job, losing a home, losing your, community, it could be losing your loved ones in so many different forms. It's to amplify the idea of healing on your own terms because it looks different for every single person. And my third book, Be Not Alone, it's a memoir. I share about the first 13 years of my life and I was born in Sierra Leone, born and raised, and moved to Canada on refugee status and due to the civil war that was happening in Sierra Leone. So that's the first part of my book that I share, and it's a lot about tapping into your inner strength. I had to do that as a child. And this is one thing that is amplified when I reflect back and started and writing about my story. And it's to really, empower you as a reader and empower leaders that you have this strength within. You just got to go in and look for it and tap into it. Raise that awareness around, okay, this is what I'm good at. This is how I'm gonna bring that into the world and do good for starting with myself.
So you've learned a lot about resiliency over the years.
Yeah. Oh yeah, 100%. It's yeah, like I mean the hardest I think the time when I was like really understood, okay, I'm being resilient was when I moved to Canada
Mm.
because it's a completely different world from where I was living. Like I left my family back home and everybody I know, everything I know, right? And then I'm in a new country. The weather is different. It's extremely cold
Yeah.
and culture is completely different. People make specific comments, either it's about my skin or my hair or my intelligence, just because of how I look and adjusting to that, not adjusting to it but like living with that and learning how to communicate instead of getting angry.
Mhm.
Either it's I step away because my energy or my cup is not at it's not full, like I can't pour right now and holding this person accountable, or there's days where I'm like, okay, I am in the great headspace, let me ask this person, what is your intention when you say that? Like, what are you trying to say? I don't understand. And then, just and the goal with that is to help them think before speaking, right? Ask questions instead of making statements about someone's skin, their color, their hair or their intelligence. Um, and then the other thing too, like with leadership, right? Like moving through the corporate ladder and I being the only black like female working. I remember when I was working at a McDonald's in Langley as a manager, moving through all the different ranks, like that was very challenging, not seeing a black woman that I can look up to and being that person that others look up to, so carrying that responsibility. And first it was like a load and then eventually it's like, okay, this is part of my purpose.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
And sometimes people go through so much, but
Yeah.
later on, then you find out they're a consultant, they're a coach, they're speaking. Now, you brought up
Mhm.
earlier, Rasie, that you're speaking. What are the topics you're speaking on?
Yeah, I speak on specifically my three books. So that authentic leadership, healing, and tapping into our inner strength. A lot around that leadership, especially self-leadership. I I I know that from my experience and from, people who I've worked with, and that when we start with self-leadership, there's so much more that is possible. Because when we start with self-leadership, you're not only you're you're not focusing on the outside of you, you're focusing on the inside. And when you focus on the inside, you stop listening to the noise. You stop listening to, that negativity, right? You stop listening to projections,
Mhm.
and you're doing things because it's the right thing to do for you in that moment, because it helps you be better, do better, and lead better. And also that it is extended to how we're leading others, right? How we're inspiring. We're talking about how we influence people without them, without even knowing that we're influencing them,
Mhm.
right? So it's like leading through actions versus our words. Yeah.
Oh. So, what kind of work are you doing right now where people are coming to you?
Yeah, so I work with organizations with supporting them with leadership training and development. So either it's facilitating workshops, creating leadership programs, or coordinating coaching sessions for their leaders within the organization. And then we also do board retreats. So I collaborate with other consultants and coaches within my community to do that for retreats for leadership, for leaders across organizations or on boards. And then with the other part of my work, I support authors, so aspiring authors in reaching their dream of writing and publishing their book. I do work with a team, and that's what's very unique about me. I love collaborating. I love working with other people. I think we make a bigger impact when we do. So on the leadership end, I work with a team, and with supporting authors, I work with a team. So with editors and book designers. Um, and then we also help support authors who have already published. So either it's like they want to get their book out there with marketing, trying to figure out different ideas. So we support them with a done with you marketing. And yeah, and then I'm excited to have my fourth book come out. So that's where we're at right now, and with those two different services that I love so much.
Well, you are busy, and on top of that,
Yeah.
it's good.
It's been wild, Dawn, with integrating that and motherhood. I'm really grateful for that, just really valuing that self-leadership aspect. And I keep saying this over and over, especially in the last few weeks. It's everything I've done up to this point was preparing me for this integration.
Oh, I believe that. I
Yeah,
absolutely believe everything
yeah,
happens to teach
yeah,
us and to help us be better versions
yeah.
of ourselves. Well, we're out of
Mhm.
time. Where can the listeners find out more about your services and
Yeah.
also, again, your books too, again?
Yeah, honestly, if you search my name, it will come up. Like if you search Rasie Bamigbade and books, it will come up. But I'm very active on Instagram and on LinkedIn, so you can find me there. Feel free
Mhm.
to send me a message. I am all for, interacting and building relationships with people, especially with aligned values. And yeah, that's basically it. And thank you so much for having me on here, Dawn. I really appreciate this
Pleasure.
conversation.
And you have a name that's not very common to me, maybe some Americans. So, do you mind spelling it out? Because, when I first
Yeah.
wanted to rename you,
You know what's
not on
interesting?
purpose,
Because I remarried, right? And so my new last name is Broda. I just haven't got to changing it. It's a whole process.
but
But my last name is Bamigbade. So the GB, at that section is Ba. So it's Bami Bade. Yeah.
very good. Thank you so much, Rasie. You're an inspiration. Congratulations to you and your husband on the new baby. We hope you come
Thank you.
to our
Thank
listeners.
you.
Stay empowered. We'll see you next time. And always know you can reach out. And if I can't help you, I'll find somebody that can help you build your resiliency muscles. Take care.
Thank you.